Hi, everybody. Welcome to the meeting. We're going to get started in a few seconds, and we're going to wait for everybody to have an opportunity to join us tonight. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining the Mountain Charlie Road virtual community meeting. We're going to start in a few seconds. We're just waiting for more people to come in, giving them the opportunity to join this meeting before we get started. Okay, I don't see anybody else joining us, so I will go ahead and get this meeting started. So before we get started, a quick note on logistics and meeting conduct. If there's a power outage or technical issue and we're unable to resume within 10 minutes, the meeting will be rescheduled and you'll receive an updated invitation via CruiseAware. We like to make sure everyone has an opportunity to ask questions following Steve's presentation. So if we see a high volume of hands or questions in the chat, we may need to limit each person to 2 questions initially. Once everyone in the queue has had a chance to speak, we'll circle back for any follow-ups. Thank you in advance for your understanding and cooperation. I will go ahead and do a really quick round of introductions of who is our panelist for this meeting. So we do have Ray, who is here from District 5 Supervisor Monica Martinez's office. We also have Joel, who is our senior civil engineer here at Community Development and Infrastructure Department. And then, of course, we have Steve Wiesner, who is our Assistant Director of Roads and Transportation. And now I will hand it over to Steve Wiesner to begin his presentation.
Thank you, Tiffany, and good evening, everyone. I'm happy to see we have a lot of participants here showing up for the Zoom meeting. I wasn't sure, now that the road's been around for a little bit of time now, what kind of participation we have, but I can still tell that folks are really interested. So I'm happy to basically give you an update on what's going on with the road failure and its impending repair. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and you'll have to forgive me. It seems like every time I do this, it's new. But I'll share the presentation here, and I'll get it going. Let me know if Tiffany, maybe give me a thumbs up if you can see it. And does
I can see it.
Okay, great. All right, so yeah, we're here to talk about the spot at Mount Charlie Road at post mile 1.63 that failed in 2024, and we've had quite a bit of history actually since then. So today I'm actually, and forgive me for those who know the project timeline really well. I know a lot of you do, you've lived it, but I'm going to go over a timeline just for folks who are either new to this call or maybe didn't make some of the other ones. I'm going to talk a little bit about, how we got to where we are today, a little bit about the temporary repair that we installed last year and how well it's performing. I'll do an update on the FEMA funding and the potential for actually getting not only the temporary repair funded, but also the permanent repair. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing up on Mount Charlie Road this summer, our maintenance team. Okay, so with that, I just really quick, just remind everybody, I mean, it seems like we've been living this for a long time, but it's really just been a little over a year, about a year and a half. When we discovered the storms that really caused this, that drove this, happened at the end of January and into February last year. And we discovered cracks in the road, late February, and, three days later, we closed the road. And it was a good thing because it really started to fail catastrophically after that. And it just consumed itself through, as part of this landslide. We had our first public meeting in March. So really just like less than a month after we discovered the cracks, we were speaking with the community and obviously having more communication than just the public meeting with a lot of you folks who live up there. And then by April, we had already gone out there and we'd started had a geotechnical engineer go out there and install some instrumentation. And we were watching the slide continue to move. It was great. We collected some really good data. And at that time, we did get a federal disaster declaration, which gave us the hope that maybe there'd be money available, not only for temporary repair, but for the permanent repair. And all the while, the slide's still going, and it did. It kept creeping along for a couple months there, and then it finally did stop right around May 1st. we noted in our data that it wasn't moving anymore. And we were already starting to draft plans for what we thought what either a permanent repair might look like, what the ultimate like alignment and geometry of that might look like, and what type of wall we might even use to repair it. And then in the ensuing months, we were working with FEMA to scope out the project, and again, both temporary and permanent. And then by late June, we had our second public meeting. And I think there I really updated the community on, where we were at with the funding. There were still a lot of questions in our mind. We still hadn't identified any funding for a temporary repair. And with FEMA, we were still even questioning whether they were going to allow us to enter this project into their disaster assessment inventory. But by June, July, we were talking more seriously about a temporary repair, and Supervisor McPherson at the time had identified some Measure D funds in his district that we could use to possibly implement a temporary repair. And I know there's a lot of pressure from the community not having this road open. There's a lot of worry about fire and about emergency ingress and egress and all these types of things. We were listening to you guys, and we held another public meeting in August to let y'all know that we did identify Measure D funding to implement a temporary repair. We had a pretty good design going. We had a contractor on board who was willing and able to do the project. And in early August, that temporary road construction began. And we worked really, really hard for the next 6 to 8 weeks to actually implement that temporary repair. I'll talk a little bit more about that. And then I think we were pretty happy to report that by towards the end of October, when we had our last public meeting, or our public meeting number 4, I should say, that we had actually implemented the repair and the road was going to be back open. And that brings us, there's been a lot that has occurred between last October and this June, over the last 8 months. And so that's why we're here today to talk about sort of what's next. So I'm going to go through these slides very quickly. Again, just for those who may not have had the ability to attend the meetings or just new to the community. So this is when we discovered the cracks. And then obviously within a couple of weeks, it looked like this, and we were installing survey monitoring points out there to see what was really going on, get our heads around it. And then we had hired a geotechnical firm in April to go out there and starting to install some instrumentation. Specifically, inclinometer was installed so we could measure ground movement both at the surface and subsurface. And we got a lot of really good data from that before the slide stopped moving, and it really informed us as to what's going on there. And then we had done some preliminary layouts, what we thought the ultimate geometry would look like, taking into account that that driveway had to get rebuilt as well. And then, this is prior to us doing any kind of work out there, but this is what it looked like when it came to arrest. And then by the time we started working in August, you could really see we were clearing the area out. We had to move that pole there in the middle. There were several utilities that had to get out of the way for us. And then we processed all that material. We brought in a lot of good material to process with that was not so great material to build a fill out of, but we did it. We installed quite a bit of drainage, and I'll have to say, we did have some rain up there this year. It wasn't one of our worst winters. Maybe not even average when it came to numbers, but we did have some big gully washers where we got 2 to 4 to 5 inches in an evening, and that's the type of rain that's going to test a temporary road like this. So it's a good thing we put in all those drain blankets in that manifold system, and we got the water out to the outside of the slope. And then we obviously installed some cross culverts as well. And then this is just what it was looking like right before we brought it up to grade, and this is what it looked like pretty much the day that we opened it. And we did note that was probably still going to be some work that we had to do to adjust, but for the most part, I think we had good construction from our contractor out there to get the road back up to what it looks like today. But then as we started getting rain, which we did actually, and I think November we might have got our first rain, and we did see that there was a lot of mud sloughing off and it was kind of clogging up that drain, and we were very worried about water actually going over the other outboard side of the road. And so the crews went up there and they installed this pipe. This is a great down drain system that they installed. They also welded some angle iron onto the grate to the drainage inlet to lift it up so that it could allow a certain amount of debris to get through there and it wouldn't just clog up. That really helped out a lot. They also put in that berm on the left-hand picture. You can see that dirt berm the crew built. I think that was a really good thing for them to do, and just in case water did get to the edge of the outboard side of the road, it wouldn't cause any type of erosion down through the fill. So I think that was really good. You can see we were already getting a little bit of rain, and even into December, we were starting to get some rain. And this right here, I just threw this up just so we could see. Now, I didn't cover the whole winter, but from December 1st, this goes from December 1st to March 30th. And it's a hydrograph of the rain events that we got, the precipitation amount. And you can see there was, 2-3 events where we got over, 3 over 4 inches of rain. And you can see on either side of those days that spiked, there were also some accumulation as well. So we had, bona fide 4 to 8 inch events several times throughout the winter. And I would have to say we sent the crew up there every time. After every rain, the crew was up there, and even during the rains to monitor the site, just to make sure that we weren't getting any movement that we didn't want to see. And we didn't. We actually didn't. They did a little bit of adjusting through the winter, but for the most part, I think the road performed really well. I think some of you will note that there was some chuck holes and some potholes forming in the base rock, and we anticipated that was going to happen. We were trying not to go out there and repair it every single time because we knew it would just continue to happen. But it stayed serviceable. Sort of what the status of the current temporary repairs, there's really no signs of settlement. Now I will say, we've inspected it thoroughly, both on the inboard side of the road and the outboard side of the fill. The inboard side looks really good. We almost see no movement at all. We do note there's a seep, there's a spring at the northern end. That's likely one of the main drivers of the original slide was that, and we know that the water's coming through, it's coming above the road. It's really mushy in that one spot on the northern side. We're monitoring it. We know it's there. We're thinking about that and what we might do with the permanent design to try to even wick that water away even more than the under drains that we put in as part of the temporary. But very little signs of erosion or reeling on the slope, which was really good to see. And we are getting water and production out of the under drains, so we know that they're working really well. We do have some signs of the slope pulling away at the steepest area where it conforms back into the regular Mountain Charlie road fill. It's on the outboard side of the southern side. It's a little bit of cracking. We're watching it. It's not, we don't think it's going to cause anything catastrophic. It's really gravity's kind of just pulling it down, and it really calls out the need for a permanent retaining wall in this area. And we know that's what the permanent solution is going to eventually be. But we're monitoring it. We actually just discovered a sinkhole in one of the new culverts we put in on the north side. So if some of you all who have been driving by there may have even noted that we put a barricade on it just recently. It's something that we noted. We're watching it. We're working with the contractor who installed that to make that repair. That's something we'll do this summer. But just to alleviate any concerns about that, we have noticed that, and we're looking at it. And so what that brings me, I mean, it's really, I think the success is that the temporary road held. And so for those of you who might have had some discomfort with the repair that we did, and it was certainly not cheap. It was, we spent about $670,000 all said with the engineering and the contractor to implement that temporary repair. The good thing is a lot of that will be reused in the permanent repair. So it's not a complete waste of money. And the really good news is, aside from the fact that the temporary road held and it's looking good, that we have just received information from FEMA that that the cost of the temporary road, and you'll see it says $560,459 in that table there. That's we call it Category B. Category B is the temporary repair. Category C is the permanent repair. So the temporary repair has made it all the way through FEMA review. They haven't said no. And in fact, they passed that on to Cal OES, our partners at the state, who are reviewing it right now. And we anticipate they're going to approve that $560,000 any day now, which is fantastic because that will replenish the Measure D funding, which really needs to go on to other road related projects in District 5. So, I mean, we're feeling really good about that. And I think the other thing that gives us confidence that the permanent repair, which is what we call the Category C one at the bottom row there, for nearly $3 million. And that's what we think. That's a pretty good estimate of what we think the permanent repair is going to cost. Is if they haven't said no on the Category B, it's a very, very good indication that they're not going to say no on the Category C. Now, they may still go back and forth with us on what we're trying to do out there and its impacts. But I will say it's made it through almost all of the FEMA reviews. It's at the very end of the line in EHP, and that's their environmental group. It's a little bit of a black hole. When things go in there, it's sometimes hard to tell when they're going to come out. It could be 3 to 6 months, or it could be even up to a year before we find out if they're going to fund the permanent repair. So I don't want anybody to get too excited that we're going to see a permanent repair out this summer. This is not going to happen this summer. But that said, we have a really good start on the design for the permanent repair. It hasn't changed much from when we originally showed the alignment to you and what the concept was for a soldier pile style wall, retaining structure. And then at that point, we'd be able to move the road back into the county road right away. And, we're obviously talking with the folks who live up at the top of the driveway that got destroyed by the slide as well, and trying to do everything we can to coordinate their repair ideas with the county's repair and our timeline and the FEMA approvals. And so we're doing a delicate dance with both the community and with our federal partners and our state partners. But I don't have any bad news to share. So I think I'm going to call that good news. No bad news is good news, I think sometimes. And that's where we're at with that. So with that, I want to talk just a little bit about what we can look forward to this summer. The crew's definitely going to pay some attention to Mount Charlie Road. And in fact, they already have. They were scheduled to do ditching throughout the entire district between April 25th and June 20th. And I think they've completed the ditching on Mount Charlie Road, which is good. And I'm sure those of you who drive the road daily have seen that. And what they're going to do next is they'll be up there in July. Implementing their pavement repair program throughout the entire, northern area of our county. But in particular, they're going to spend a couple weeks on Mount Charlie Road. That's a really big commitment and a great investment from our road crew. They're going to get up there for almost 2 solid weeks, and they're going to patch and do as much pavement repair as the time allows them during that period from top to bottom. They're going to cover the entire road. And then in August, is when our mowing program starts in District 5. And so be patient, but they're going to get out there and they're going to do as much vegetation control on the roadside as they can, including on Mount Charlie Road and many other roads throughout their district as well. And then with that, I wanted to share with you that because we didn't spend the full $700,000 and we were saving it to see if there's any big adjustments we needed to make throughout the winter, and it appears we've made it through the winter fairly unscathed. We recommended to Supervisor Martinez to utilize that last $30,000 that we have to resurface the road. So, and it just so happens that the crew's going to already be up there, and so I've added this to the crew's maintenance plan, which is to add 2 inches of asphalt, hot mix asphalt. So they'll get out there, grade it. They'll make sure that the drainage, the slopes and everything are working the way they want them to, and then they're just going to cap the whole thing off with a couple inches of asphalt. So in essence, we're going to have a good surface that we won't have to worry too much about the potholes. And I think it will help with drainage quite a bit as well. And so let's see with that. I think I'm going to open it up to questions after that. And I just appreciate everyone's patience and having to sort of review where we've been and where we are today. But I think it's a good, valuable information for the community and hopefully answered most of your questions. But if not, we're here and we stand ready to answer any questions you might have for the rest of our time.
Thank you, Steve, for your presentation. We do have a question in the chat from Kathy. Can Congressman Panetta expedite the process of moving the permanent repair through the FEMA process?
I think I can take a run at that. So Congressman Panetta absolutely knows about this project, absolutely knows that it's in the FEMA hopper, and both his office and our other federal legislators as well have been helping us track this effort. And I'm not sure there's much more that he can do at this point. I mean, we've gotten category B moved all the way through the hopper, and category C permanent repairs at the very end. And so I think at this point we need to be a little bit patient. I say that we're meeting with our FEMA partners on a weekly basis. So we're tracking this thing on a weekly basis. And if we do need to call their help or to their attention something that's going wonky, we'll certainly do that. Thank you.
Currently, I'm not seeing any hands raised or any additional questions in the chat, but we did receive some messages from the public in our host and panelist chat as well. Oh, okay. I see Ken. You should be able to unmute yourself to ask your question.
Great. Thanks, Tiffany and Steve. Really appreciate you organizing this call and also taking care of some of the other parts of the Mountain Charlie Road. The question I have is related to the sinkhole. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about and whether we should be having a wider area for people not to drive over, or whether they should be driving more close to the hill, or whether any of those help?
That's a great question, Ken. Thanks for bringing it up. We haven't done a full investigation yet. Until we rip it open, I'm not sure we'll know exactly why. We suspect, these pipes get put together, but with joints, right? And some of these joints are snapped together. Some of them have like a bound collar around them. And until we excavate and look at it, the good thing is we're out of the rainy season, so we don't think it's going to get worse. And I would just caution folks to not drive, near that barricade that we have. Just, do the best you can to just, not get too close to it. But we will be getting out there and digging up the area. It's likely it's a pipe separation. That's typically on a brand new construction like this. It's a 36-inch pipe, so it is big, but it's likely that it's separated for some reason. And we don't know if it's construction related or if it's a defect in the pipe material until we dig it up. But we'll get it repaired.
Thank you, Steve. So we do have a question for Ray, though I don't think this is a question that could be answered in this meeting necessarily, but I don't want to speak for your office. It's, will Monica approve?
I'm not quite sure that I understand the question. I'm happy to answer to the extent that I have that information, but I think I'm going to need a little more clarity. So maybe if you want to put more in the chat, that's fine. Otherwise, we can follow up offline.
Sounds good.
Oh, he did. He said the resurface. And yes, Hugh, I wouldn't be sharing that with you without Supervisor Martinez's approval to spend the rest of the Measure D funds on that resurfacing. So she's totally, fully aware and supportive.
The next question, will there be any road closures during the resurfacing project?
So that's a great question too. There's possibly will be, but the crews are really good about putting signs up and giving folks fair notice. I think during their regular stuff, they can usually get folks around their regular maintenance. They'll flag you around. But if they do have to do a full closure, they're pretty good about giving folks about 5 days notice. So just look for the signs.
We also have road impact notification emails. So if you subscribe to receive updates from District 5, you can also get notification emails about any future road closures, and then you can take that into account for your commute. And I did include the link in the chat, so all you have to do is fill that out. You have the option of choosing all districts, so you can receive county-wide road notifications or specific districts based on where you live and work or commute to. So just wanted to throw that out there. That might be a helpful resource. The next question is, what is being done to support the folks who above the slide who don't have a driveway?
The question is an update for the folks above the slide. Is that, say it again?
Yes, it is. What is being done to support the folks above the slide who don't have a driveway? So I'm thinking it might be a reference to the people with the affected driveway.
Right. Yeah, I can tell you that we have been in touch with them, that they're right now exploring what techniques and methods they might use to repair the driveway. And then obviously, Mount Charlie Road it's in the way of their repair right now. And so we really need to sync up the timing of their construction with our permanent repair. And so we've shared that with them. And to the extent that they call us for information, we're obviously providing all of that information and sharing documents and files and all of these types of things. And so we're in touch with them, and that's about what I can share with you.
The next question, when the crew is patching / paving, can they address the buckled pavement that was patched on Mount Charlie and Old Japanese Road? The patch covered it, but it is very uneven and the cars can't go over it without bottoming out, especially difficult when there are vehicles stopped at the mailboxes.
I'm sure, Kyle, that when they do get up there, that'll be part of one of the things that they address. Yeah, they're, like I said, they're doing pavement repairs top to bottom, and they'll look at stuff, especially if cars are bottoming out. I haven't heard that. That's the first I've heard of cars bottoming out. I would definitely caution you to drive a little slower if that's happening. But yeah, the crew will take a look at that for sure.
With regard to the cost of repairing the culvert under the sinkhole, is that covered by the contract language? Does that determination have to be by a third party?
So we do have contract language that warranties any work that's done on our county roads. They typically last about a year long, and so we're working with the contractor, hopefully as to have this be a warranty repair. We don't really know where that's going to go. Hopefully it doesn't go to a third party like mediation situation. hopefully we'll be able to just work directly with our contractor to get it repaired.
I'm not seeing any hands raised or any new questions in the chat or the Q&A. I just want to give a couple more seconds if you're typing something to type it out. If not, we will end the meeting if there are no additional questions. Okay, I see Kathy, you should be able to unmute yourself to ask your question.
Thank you. I actually don't have any questions. I just want to thank you all, really, on behalf of our community for working on the road and being on top of everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kathy. We also have estimated time for final repair.
So yeah, I think the most accurate thing I could say is it's for certain not going to happen this summer. And so that's one of the main drivers, I think, behind putting in this resurfacing, because we're going to have to make it through another winter, it feels like. Now, if we do get FEMA approval for the funding for the permanent repair, and let's say it happens middle summer, towards the end of the summer, we'll get cracking on a contract and getting all our documents ready to hopefully implement that repair in the following year. I will say there's going to be a match component that we'll have to work on with the county CEO's office and our director, and it's quite likely we would work to put that into our budget for the following fiscal year, which means we would implement the repair at the soonest would be summer 26. That would be. Now, of course, if FEMA drags its feet and we're 6 months to a year down the road and we still don't have obligation from them, then we'll be sharing that information with y'all. But I would say the earliest we would be able to implement a repair at this with the information we have today would be next summer.
Thank you, Steve. Does the permanent repair address the slide area or continue and address the hillside south of the slide, which appears to be in danger of sliding?
It would only address the slide area, and that's really where you have the temporary road. The area that you're concerned about south of this slide area, obviously we're looking at that too. We had the crews bolster up all of the outboard berms, right? I think, which is helpful because it directs the water more efficiently into the outboard side drain. But no, we have no solution for that or money, and we're just hope that it lasts longer than we have to worry about it sliding. And it's sometimes these things will be there for 25, 30 years like that, and then sometimes next winter it'll go. So we're doing our best to keep it maintained and to keep the water moving.
What about other areas like post mile 1.94 previously approved?
So good question. So those are in the works. I'm almost like, so we have Joel LaCagnina on the line here. Joel is the senior civil engineer. He's in charge of our road design section. Maybe some of you recall Tim Bailey had this position last summer. Tim retired since then, and Joel has taken the helm of that group since last October. Now, I think that those are in the works, but I'm not sure they're funded for repair. Joel, do you have any information on that? And we can always get back to you, Hugh, and I could send you a separate email on that if we don't have anything contemporary today for you. So Joel, not to put you on the spot, but if you had something, you could share it now, or we could give you a few minutes and we could take another question. But also, Hugh, I'm happy to, we can just email you separately. But I think we didn't have the local match for that one, and I'm not sure that one was even in the budget. Hang on, I've got to. So since we have a little bit of time, give me a second. I've got a little bit of info here. Let's see if I can find it. And this was, I think this was a 2017 project, actually. Yeah, you know what, Hugh, let us get back to you on that.
I'm not seeing any additional questions coming through the chat or hands raised or anything in the Q&A. If you have any questions, type it in now or forever hold your peace.
right? And I would like to say a closing, like just a tiny closing remark. If we're getting towards the end of our meeting here,
I think we are.
For one, I want to appreciate everyone's patience up there. You know, y'all who live up on Mount Charlie Road and have been heavily impacted by this event. We know that it's a big disruption to your life, and I know this might be a once in a lifetime thing for some of you, and others who have lived in the mountains maybe have experienced this more than once, and it's very disruptive. We understand that. I hope that you understand from our standpoint that we obviously we care. We want to fix roads. That's what we do here. Our job is to maintain and keep our road system moving along, and keep people moving where they need to go and getting to and from their properties. And we understand how important it is for not just everyday life, but for our economy and for the resiliency of all of our communities across the county. And so we're going to do everything we can to fix roads. And sometimes we're very constrained by the funding situation that we're faced with. There's all kinds of challenges, not just physical challenges, but in the end, the engineering becomes not the difficult part. It's really funding these projects, and our needs far outweigh the funding that's available for us to take care of our road system in a way that we in Public Works would like to, and we think we need to. And we know it's our responsibility to, and so we'll continue to do that. But I'm hoping that through this process that we've built a little bit of a rapport with the community, and we've instilled a little bit of confidence that that we're going to be out there and do everything we can to try to fix these things, and pull every resource we have available to us. But that said, it takes you guys to help too. And I think the advocacy that your community did with our legislature, both at the state and federal level, and then also with our local county supervisors, is very commendable to see that type of participation. And even in a meeting today where we don't have a lot of bad news to share, or we're not faced with like the type of challenges we had last summer, we still have really good participation in this meeting. So I'm going to commend you all for that. And we're here and available to answer questions should you have any. Please just use the normal channels to get in touch with us, and we're very happy to provide more continued information. And
what was that question, Steve? My Zoom got minimized. I was having technical difficulty with.
So Hugh had a question about post mile 1.94, and it's a historic site that I think.
Yeah, that's a 2022 site.
Yeah. So do you have an update on that? I mean, that's what he's looking for.
Well, we're working with FEMA to get that obligated. It's December 2022, so it's on the FEMA list. We've applied, and it's probably an EHP like a lot of other projects. But yeah,
Okay.
We're working to get that one funded.
So it's one of the unobligated projects, part of the 22-23 storm season.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just don't have it obligated yet, Hugh. I know, and they're taking forever. 23 is just, it seems like it's like molasses to get FEMA to approve these projects, but that's one that still awaits approval, it sounds like.
Yeah, actually, within that event, there's 5 sites we're trying to get obligated.
Okay. So I think that's the update there, Hugh. We're still working on it.
And also one from March 23, we're also trying to get 1.89 obligated as well. So
yeah, they're really close to each other.
Alrighty. Well, thank you, Steve, for the closing remarks. And I wanted to go ahead and thank everybody for attending today's meeting. We appreciate your engagement and all of your questions and all the positive feedback that you've been messaging us. I did add in the chat the email for Mountain Charlie Road questions. If you have any questions after this meeting, feel free to reach out to us via that email. Anyways, I hope you all have a really great evening, and we'll be in touch. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
So much.